This is the Fractal Terra, one of the classiest SFF cases out there. Today I'll be loading it up with a 302mm long GPU, an SFX-L PSU, and an air cooler at 53mm tall. I'll go over the build process, cable routing, and thermals. Now before we get going, I just want to compare the size of the Terra to some other popular cases. It's shorter than the Lian Dan A4, and here's the Lian A3, which is a micro ATX case for reference. The Terra is definitely very small, so I'll have to be very strategic with this build. The side panels swing open and can be removed. The hinge mechanism is smooth. You can definitely feel the quality of this case. The Terra has what Fractal calls a spine. It can be adjusted to fit wider GPUs or taller air coolers. If you move it to fit a larger GPU though, you'll have less clearance for the air cooler and vice versa. For this build, I'm using the default position, which is number 4 on the spine. This gives me perfect clearance for my 2.5 slot GPU and 53mm air cooler. There's 4 adjustment points on the spine. Loosen the screws and adjust to where it needs to be. I'm going to put my SFX-L power supply in first. You could remove the PSU bracket and fasten the PSU to the bracket outside of the case, but I'm too lazy, so I'm just skipping that step. I'm just going to install it directly to the bracket. Installing the PSU first was my first mistake. I should have pre-ran some of the PSU cables first before installing the unit. So let's backtrack and uninstall the PSU and run some cables. Mistakes were made, but I'm better for it because of it, right? At least that's what I tell myself. I want to run the 8-pin CPU power cable under this opening, but the opening isn't open enough. Kind of a pain, because I had to unscrew all the spine screws and remove the spine adjustment piece up here to be able to prop the motherboard tray up. Alright, now that I'm happy, let's get this spine secured. I don't know if you're supposed to remove these orange clip things. I like them, so they're staying in. Alright, there you have it. One pre-run CPU power cable. These are the GPU power cables. Fractal gives you these perfectly placed Velcro straps on the back of the front panel. These cables will be sandwiched in between the PSU and the front panel. Alright, carrying on. Let's remove the included riser and let's get this ITX motherboard in place. There's plenty of room to put the motherboard down and to get it screwed down. Alright, let's slip this riser back into its groove and plug it into the PCI Express slot. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm using a Ryzen 7600X in this system. Let's plug that pre-ran CPU power cable in. This one was a little bit awkward to get at. I'm really glad I ran the cable underneath the motherboard tray. It looks pretty clean to me. Okay, let's get that PSU back installed. Hopefully, I won't have to take it out again. I'm not going to show me screwing it back in, so here you go. Done. GPU cables are already where they need to be. I'll get at those later. Let's stuff the front panel cables through to the other side of the case and plug them into the motherboard. This is the front panel USB-A. This is the power switch. And this is the front USB-C. Okay, my self-fulfilling prophecy has come true. I had to remove the PSU again so I could run all the front panel connectors behind the PSU. So I unplugged all the front panel stuff and reran them. Kind of annoying, but that's just more my impatience rather than the design of the case. I am glad I did this though, as it's much cleaner having all these cables behind the PSU. Okay, let's get this PSU back to its home once and for all. Here's a look at those connections from behind. They're nice and tucked in, hidden away nicely. And it's always a good idea to zip tie cables to keep them all together as you're going through the build. Alright, let's do the 24-pin power cable. I love sandwich style cases because being able to access everything from every direction makes building so easy and fun. The Fractal Terra is so much fun. Here's another look at all my cables just kind of stuffed in the bottom of the case. With some patience, you can make your cable runs actually pretty functional, not in the way of any airflow, and pretty aesthetic. Ah yeah, the GPU. Almost forgot about that. I was lost in a Terra trance. Well, the show must go on. This is a Gigabyte 7800 XT. What do you think this is, a 2.5 slot or a 2.75 3 slot? I couldn't find it on Gigabyte's website. I did set the case spine at 4, so that's more than enough room for my video card's width and my air cooler. This card is 302 millimeters long, which gives me some room at the front of the case to run cables. You'll see that in a second here. Alright, I tried doing the whole chill, laid back music for the whole video, but I can't. I gotta change the pace here. Let's take this build home here. I must say, I do like the look of a bunch of individually sleeved cables all nice tight together on a cable run. These cables come stock with the Asus Loki PSUs. Alright, let's get this bad boy all done back up and let's spool this thing up and look at some thermals. Got some nasty fingerprints on there, as you can see. Fractal does supply a microcloth with this case, which I'm very thankful for because I'm able to somewhat deal with my nasty prints on this thing. One thing I also want to mention and give props to Fractal for, I love when you can open up a side panel with one hand and not have to remove the panel from the case. It's so convenient when you have to go inside for something. This is an underestimated feature of this case that not all cases have. Playing Cyberpunk at 1440p, my max CPU temp was 74 and my max GPU temp was 75. To me, this is pretty good considering I didn't add any case fans and just let my cooler fans and the case airflow just do its thing. Although everything is sandwiched pretty tight in here, the case is still pretty open and lets air go where it needs to go. Keep in mind, my CPU is not the most power hungry and it doesn't create as much heat. If you're using a more powerful CPU, I would definitely expect those temps to be higher and I might want to think of something else. Or I might want to figure out how to add some case fans. Speaking of case fans, the one downside of using an SFX-L PSU is I couldn't add any fans at the bottom. I've seen videos where the builder's using a regular SFX power supply and they're able to put a slim fan underneath the power supply. Overall, I did enjoy building in this case. It's been on my eye for a while and I'm glad I finally pulled the trigger and built in it. Is it worth the money? Yes. It is a little more difficult compared to other cases to build in, but just with some strategy and some forward thinking, it's easy enough and it's actually quite fun and definitely worth it. And just to quickly mention, this video was not sponsored by anybody. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.